Good morning. Good afternoon, rather. Can you all hear me? Okay. All right. Well, good afternoon. I just want to welcome everyone to this network organizational development webinar. I'm really excited to present with my colleague, Chad Butterbow, and Ryan. Thank you for the technical assistance.
So this session is being recorded and will be posted on YouTube soon. And of course, you're all here to see the live version. Slide, please, Ryan. We'll ask you to mute your device until you're speaking and not to present your screen. To have some way of jotting notes at hand while we're talking today. We will hold the meeting to the established time with the opportunity for additional sharing digitally. Slide.
All right, so this is just an overview of how to maneuver Google Meet. I'm sure everyone is veteran at this point, but just take a pause to see how to maneuver captions and all of these various buttons. Slide, please.
We do have a number of grounding slides that we like to read through out loud just to get us all in the same place before we get started. I will go through our equity and justice statement word by word. The arts celebrate our state's diversity, connect our shared humanity, and transform individuals and communities. MSAC and its supporting collaborators are committed to advancing and modeling equity, diversity, accessibility, and inclusion in all aspects of our organizations and across communities of our state. MSAC and its grantees are committed to embracing equity and non-discrimination, regardless of race, religious creed, color, age, gender expression, sexual orientation, class, language, and/or ability.
Our vision is the Maryland State Arts Council plays an essential role ensuring every person has access to the transformative power of the arts. Our mission statement is that the Maryland State Arts Council advances the arts in our state by providing leadership that champions creative expression, diverse programming, equitable access, lifelong learning, and the arts as a celebrated contributor to the quality of life for all the people of Maryland. Slide.
We have 5 main goals as expressed through our strategic plan at MSAC. They are to increase participation, provide intentional support, build capacity, leverage connections, and bolster Maryland arts. 3 of those 5 goals apply to what we're doing today. First of all, to increase participation through broadening our constituency, providing intentional support through embracing thoughtful and targeted approaches to serving known and yet to be known MSAC constituents. And finally, to bolster Maryland arts by showcasing the high caliber, diverse, and relevant work of our artists and arts organizations, their contributions to community vitality, and our role as a catalyst.
All right, creative meeting actions. We encourage everyone to celebrate being in the space with other creative people, engage with everyone's presence as a gift, acknowledge that together we know a lot, enter the conversation with curiosity and inquiry, Share your idea and trust that it will be heard. Use I statements. Focus your language on the task at hand. Hold one another accountable with care. Apply yes and I hear your idea and I'm going to add to it. Balance speaking and listening.
So here's our agenda for today. We will go over who we are and then talk a little bit about the purpose of the Network Organizational Development, or Noc Grant. We may just use that acronym NOD going forward. Give you an idea of some of the past grantees who have received this funding. Talk about the granting calendar. Talk about how to make an application, including application strategies, and a closing period for questions. You can kind of ask questions throughout the conversation, though. There are only a couple of you on the call at the moment, so this can be very conversational.
All right. My name is Abdul Ali, and I am the Program Director for the Arts and Entertainment Districts and, excuse me, and County Arts Development.
And I'm Chad Buderbaugh, state folklorist. My email and phone number are there. Abdul's is there. His email is there as well, of course. And you're getting the two of us today because this is a grant that is available only to these three programs, MSAC's three network-based grantees, A&E, County Arts, and the Folklife Network.
Slide, please. All right. So the purpose of the Noc Grant, as Chad just mentioned, it's only for these three network programs: Arts and Entertainment Districts, County Arts Development, and the Folklife Network. And we'll describe the purpose, I think, in the next slide.
These are, again, our three network-based groups of grantees. There are 29 A&E districts, 24 county arts agencies, and 8 regional folklife centers. So all of these organizations are receiving an annual grant from us, but they're a little bit different in that, in addition to providing funding to these grantees, MSA is interested in building networks of collaborators in slightly different ways through these three programs, but there is the common approach of wanting to provide support from the state level and also build relationships laterally from A&E district to A&E district, Folklife Network to Folklife Center to Folklife Center, and so forth. Slide, please.
Okay. A need to increase network capacity by providing funds beyond the scope of regular operating grants. So that's like restating what you just said, Chad. Slide, please.
The Noc Grant is a new program. We rolled it out only last year, fiscal year 21, and at that time it was known as the Network Technical Assistance Grant. It was set aside to fund organizational development at our network-based grantees. We changed the name because it just makes sense to talk about in the title of the grant what it is we're funding, which is organizational development. So last year, in the inaugural year, there were much smaller grants of between $500 and $2,000 that were available to our network-based grantees. Applications were evaluated internally, and awards were given on a rolling basis. So whenever an application came in, it would be reviewed and the applicant would be notified of status. This year, we are increasing the grant amount substantially from between $2,000 and $10,000. And because we are increasing the grant by that amount, we are no longer able to evaluate internally. We will have to identify panelists from the public to evaluate applications. So there will be 3 award cycles per year with the Noc Grant going forward. Awards will be given out in October, January, and April. Next slide.
All right. The purpose of the Noc Grant. The intention of the Network Organizational Development Grant is to support organizational development activities beyond the scope of regular activities funded by Arts and Entertainment District Operating Support, County Arts Development, or Folklife Folklife network grants. Organizational development is defined as any effort that supports the stability, visibility, and effectiveness of an organization. This broad definition means that organizational development looks different based on each organization's unique needs. Slide, please.
So we just want to highlight that last sentence and put you in something of a creative mindset when you think about potentially applying for a Noc Grant. The sky's the limit in terms of organizational development, and we as a funder are recognizing in this context that there are going to be vastly different needs based on the type of institution you work in, what your budget is, even where in the state you're located, what your mission is. So do be creative when you think about what might be funded through this program. Slide.
So as far as past grantees, an example would be Folklife Network, Creative Alliance here in Baltimore City, applied to support interim executive director placement. Did you want to say anything about that, Chad?
Sure. Yeah, this was part of it's part of an ongoing process at our regional Folklife Center located in Baltimore City. A previous executive director stepped down several months ago, and it became clear quickly that they would not only need to do a national search for a new executive director, but would also need a little bit of assistance in placing an interim director. So Mark Procipio was placed recently, and we were able to support the search for him for the person who ended up being him through a then network technical assistance grant.
Great, and that directly connects to supporting the stability of the organization.
Exactly right. Yep.
Great, and I guess I can add that I was just kind of peering through the archives a little bit, and we funded the Cumberland A&E district for a marketing campaign to promote the renovation of the downtown area. So that sounds like a marketing is definitely important to the visibility of what we're doing. So please, write your ideas down. We want to support making all of the good work that you're doing visible to the broader community. Next slide, please.
Another network technical assistance grant that went out in fiscal 21 was to Sandy Spring Museum. This is a regional Folklife center located in Montgomery County, and they had the idea to do a program-specific strategic plan. So at Sandy Spring Museum, they do it's a multidisciplinary museum. You might see visual art there, performing art, culinary art, and they do some non-arts activities as well occasionally. Their Folklife program, however, has been growing in size and scope in recent years and had reached a level of velocity, let's say, or growth that the staff felt it was wise to systematize it through a strategic plan. So we were able to fund that through one of these grants last year, and I believe that it's been recently released, or a draft version has been recently released. Anyway, they're well on their way. Pictured here is a Bomba en Plena Puerto Rican dance lesson being hosted at the museum a few years back. Slide.
So here's the calendar of how things will roll out. So beginning July 1st, the grant applications have opened. September 1, call for panelists. October 7th, round 1 application deadline. November 5th, round 1 applicant notifications. January 7th, round 2 application deadline. February 5th, round 2 applicant notifications. April 7th, round 3 application deadline. May 6th, round 3 applicant notifications. Slide, please.
So the application deadlines are probably the dates that you'll want to keep in mind most of all. They're not deadlines as such in the same way that like a grants for organizations application would have a hard deadline. All it means is that If you submit your application on October 8th instead of October 7th, you'll be waiting another few months to get notification about whether or not it was successful. So if you're aware of an organizational development activity that's going to be occurring, that needs to occur at your organization in November, for example, then we would strongly recommend that you think about getting your application going very soon in preparation to submit by October 7th. Because once we send the applications to the panelists, we won't do so again until the next cycle occurs in January. Does all that make sense? Any questions there? Okay, next slide, please.
All right, how to make an application. So we're going to go over the guidelines.
You know, there's no, we probably don't need to go through the guidelines page by page. This is sort of a general piece of advice that's true of all of our grant programs. If you want to make an application, make yourself a cup of tea and sit down with the guidelines document and just read them through. It's not exactly scintillating reading, but all of the essential information is in there, and it's going to help put you into the right place to start an application.
Okay, cool. Right.
So one feature of the Noc Grant is that since it is restricted to our 3 network-based grantees, grant programs, that interested applicants should schedule a 30-minute meeting with the relevant MSAC staff before starting an application. And you'll actually see that when you get into Smart Simple and you open an application, there will be a question where you fill in the answer. Who have you spoken to about this application? This 30-minute meeting, the purpose of it is simply to make sure that the applicant is eligible, first of all, and second of all, to help with individualized application strategy so that we can increase your chances at success. Slide.
So those MSAC staff members would be myself and Chad. And this is how you can reach out to us. Yeah, slide.
As you're all aware on this call, all of our grant applications run through Smart Simple, our online grants management platform. The web address there is https://marylandarts.smartsimple.com. If you are eligible for a Noc Grant, you already have an account, so you are already familiar with the platform to some degree. Slide.
So this is the application home screen, part 1.
And part 2 is here. You see across the bottom there are there's some type in all caps. The organization information will be kind of automatically filled in. Contact information could be the same as the contact information that you supply for your A&E application or your Folklife Network application or your CAD application, County Arts Development, excuse me. Under program details is where you're going to fill in all of the narrative about your project. Under financial information, you will break down a budget as well as make a request of between $2,000 and $10,000 for how much funding you're seeking. There are some optional attachments as well. And just to clarify, you don't need to submit a full organizational budget for this program. You've already done that with your Folklife or CAD or A&E application, so we don't need that again. Slide.
Oh, I'm sorry, Chad. Can you clarify? The financial information would be specific to the program that they're seeking funding for.
That's exactly right, Abdul. So if you're requesting $10,000 inside the application financial information area, you would simply fill in that you're reserving $4,000 of that to reserve a consultant, say $2,000 to host a series of convenings where that consultant brings in your constituents to talk to them, maybe another $1,000 to support I don't know, refreshments or what have you. And it's quite a simple budget form. It's not very complicated at all. And we can help you through that as well if you do have questions.
Thank you for clarifying for our folks in the room. All right. We are happy to take questions at this juncture. Anyone? Okay.
So this is Linda Paez. I'm the chair of the Arts and Entertainment District for Historic Stevensville. When I saw this webinar announced, I was thinking of grant money that would allow us to reach out to discover how we can attract diversity in our board constituency as well as our programming and events. We're having trouble even identifying where these diverse populations live, how to reach them, et cetera. Would this be the type of thing we would use a grant for?
It sounds like you'd be looking for a consultant who works specifically in that diversity space, and that would connect to the stability of your organization.
Right.
Correct me, Chad, if I'm misspeaking.
No, you've got it, Abdul. I would say, Linda, if you wanted to hire a consultant to do some field work around your county, around Queen Anne's, you could certainly do that to make some identifications, interface with local arts organizations, community centers, public libraries, etc. And from that, the deliverable would be perhaps a list of interested parties with contact information. That's certainly something that this grant could support. Alternatively, if you don't feel like you want to hire a consultant and you would rather use somebody on your own team to go out and do that work, you could also do that. Another way to approach it would be to schedule a series of convenings around the county or around your area of service where your team goes out to strategically identified areas and perhaps in person, you host a series of dialogues to talk about what you're hoping to do with the A&E district in the future, and that you are looking for some leadership, some local leadership to support your mission.
Good idea. Hadn't thought about that one.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm on board. We can think about how we would propose to apply for the grant. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
And Linda, we can always have a one-on-one as well to
Okay.
chat about the application before you officially apply.
Yeah, because I particularly am extremely desirous of showing diversity not only in our programming but in our board, so that our planning takes into account these people's interests and background and history. And we have nothing like that, and no one seems to have the answers.
Mm-hmm. Great. Let's get to work.
Thank you.
All right. Sabine?
Sabina, hi there.
Sabina, sorry.
I was just wondering, given that you have these 3 quote-unquote deadlines for applications, and I assume you have a limited amount of money, is there a lower chance of getting a grant later on in the year because you might have spent already quite a bit of money? Meaning, does it help to apply early in the year? I know that's true for some other programs with other organizations.
Sabina, thanks for that. Yeah, there's no reserve for cycles 2 and 3 of this grant. So if we get, I forget what the total is this year, but if we spend all the money in the first third of the year, then the grant program will be closed until fiscal 23. So if possible, I would recommend that, say that your regional Folklife Center has a need in April. There's no reason you can't apply in September for that funds, and you would just put in your project schedule that this is when the activity is going to take place, and there's no prohibition there to work in that way.
Okay, great. And then when do they have to be spent, those funds? And I'm asking in part because, of course, we currently have our Folklife Institute to be scheduled at the end of June. And, you know, it's kind of hard to spend things at the end of June. So we might want, I mean, if you have something scheduled for the end of June and you get a grant that ends at the end of June, that makes it difficult. So what's the time frame for spending down the funds?
So all the funds have to be allocated by June 30th.
Okay.
And as long as that allocation is stated in your application, there's no issue with taking some extra time to actually spend the funds after the turn of the fiscal year. However, at the same time, I would say that the Noc Grants are reserved for work outside your regular programming. So this should not be funding the operation of your Summer Folklife Institute unless it were the type of situation where concurrent to that institute, you would say hire a consultant to come around and be doing exit interviews with the artist or the participants.
Yeah, no, I understand the differences. Yeah, but that is a good differentiation to highlight again. Okay, great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any more questions? Okay. Well,
this is great. I think we had questions from 100% of our participants. That never happens.
Is there only 2 folks there?
There are only 2 this afternoon, but it's a pretty small grant program. So,
oh my God, that is hilarious. All right,
Yeah.
well, bravo.
It might be small, but it's right what we need in Stevensville.
Awesome.
Yeah, we'll go for it. You know, Linda and I will just divide the pot.
Right? The early bird gets the worm, right?
There you go.
All right. Next slide, please.
So again, in any good presentation, you're supposed to tell people what you're about to tell them, and then tell them that stuff, and then tell them what you just told them. So this is what we've been over today. Introduced you to us, talked about grant purpose, past grantees, grant calendar, application strategy, and then we had a few questions. So that's where we're going to land pretty much. Next slide.
Oh.
That's the end of our formal presentation. Thank you both so much for your kind attendance today. Again, this is being recorded and will end up on YouTube. If other members of your team would like to have a look at what we've gone over today, that will be available soon.
And feel free to think things over with your staff, because maybe, you know, there's something on your wish list that you've been wanting to do, and you may not be sure if that fits into the purview of this particular grant. So we like questions, and we are here to support.
Well, this is very timely because we're actually having our executive board meeting tomorrow evening, and I'm going to bring this forward then.
Excellent. Beautiful.
Yeah, thank you very much. It really helps to brainstorm, and I'm sure we'll be in touch with Chad to talk specifically as to how this funding could be used in context of our Folklife Center. So thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Sabina, and thank you, Linda. Hearing no more questions, we will adjourn for the afternoon.
All right.
Thank you very much. Adios.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sure. Thank you, Chad. Thank you, Ryan.